So how many want to be entrepreneurs? Raise your hand. You can raise it. Be an entrepreneur. Raise it high. Okay, and how many aren't sure? It's okay. For those that aren't sure, I was in your seat when I was your age. My parents were entrepreneurs, but I saw the highs and lows of them being entrepreneurs. And I was born and raised in the Philippines, and they were immigrants in the United States. And the reason I share being Asian American is because there were 6 of us. And my parents, being entrepreneurs, and there were highs and lows, decided that their children were going to be professionals. I don't know how many of you have experienced this, but we had a designated doctor, dentist, engineer, lawyer, and an accountant. And my youngest, got to do whatever he wanted to do. But I was 5 out of 6, and I was the designated lawyer. I was precocious as a young child. I started reading early. I liked to debate. And my parents said, you know, she'd be a terrific lawyer. So that was sort of the path that was set for me. And we think in our careers that it's all about paths. It really isn't. It's been really much more like a bowl of spaghetti in the stories that you've been hearing. It's been twists and turns in my life and in my career. I went to college in the United States. I went to Mount Holyoke College, an all-women's college, and that's where I got my passion and understanding what it meant to be a woman and being a leader. But what happened in college was I got pregnant. I don't wish it upon you all, to get married at such a young age. I now have a 20-year-old, slightly older than you all, and I've been married for 21 years. It's not something that I planned for, but because I was an immigrant in the United States, I didn't really have a lot of care options being a young mom. And it was hard and I struggled. But yet I was trying to follow this path of becoming a lawyer, and I wanted to do what my parents asked me to do. So from Mount Holyoke, I applied to law school and I got in. I got into Harvard Law School, and I deferred it for 2 years. It was probably the smartest thing I did. Sort of similar to the kind of PhD path, right? I really wanted to ask myself, is this what I want to do in my life? I took 2 years off, and I started working for a strategy consulting firm and got on a telecom project and realized I liked technology. It was just starting, right? The whole word convergence was popping up. Mobile phones were starting to appear in cars. And I said, this is kind of cool. This is very interesting. But Harvard came a-calling, knocked on the door, and said, you have to come. And my parents said, if you would like help, you should probably go. And I was already married, and so I attended my first year of law school and realized it wasn't for me. I like the study of law. I like logic, arguments, and all of that, but it didn't make sense. And I found myself gravitating towards business. So then I applied to Harvard Business School, and thankfully I got in. And the JD MBA program is normally 5 years, and then I had to prove to them that being a young mom that I could do it in 4. Guess what that graduate school trained me for, which was really about hard work, lack of sleep. And whenever I would complain to my mother that it was hard, she said, at 23, I had 6 kids. So honey, don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. Because, you know, it was hard and I didn't sleep very much. But it really trained me for what it took to be an entrepreneur. It was lack of sleep, a lot of hard work, and you have to be driven. I was just with a venture capitalist in the cab last night, and he said one of the key things he sees in success is the hunger in your eyes and the hard work with something that you're pursuing, that you're passionate about. I wasn't passionate about law. That wasn't the right thing for me. The right thing for me was I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But then I got pregnant again in my graduate program. And he's now 13. He's been a great gift, but another pleasant surprise for us, and he's Adam. But what it led me to do was take a fellowship, and I taught a little bit at Harvard Business School. And that's how I got introduced to the internet. I started grading internet business plans. But I had no idea what the internet was about or even to run and operate a company, much more grade papers on internet business plans. So I jumped and I joined a startup. It had no phones, no name. So another thing about being an entrepreneur is taking risk. How many of you like to take risk? You're young. You should raise your hand high. It's fun. You know, the concept of skydiving, the concept of... we may be older, but part of being an entrepreneur is you like to take risk. And one of the key things in taking risk is actually mastering your fears and not caring too much about what other people think. I just went to a Goldman conference, and they invited 100 builders and innovators across the country in the United States. And how many of you read Malcolm Gladwell, his books, Blink, Outliers? How many of you guys have heard of him? If you haven't, pick up his book. He writes 3 great books, Tipping Point, Outliers, Blink, and he's got another one coming out, and really talks about the success and patterns that he sees that's very data-driven in trends in people's lives. And one of the new books he's writing is one of the key things he finds that overlaps in successful entrepreneurship is what we call disagreeableness. Not disrespectfulness, but disagreeableness. What does that mean? That means just pursuing what it is you're interested in, not caring too much about what people think. Because entrepreneurship is not about social acceptance. It is about risk-taking. It is about doing what it is that is in your gut, what you're passionate about, pursuing it, and not listening to all the naysayers that says, that's a stupid idea, why would you do that? Right? It's really trusting your gut in this disagreeableness. How many of you know Deepak Chopra? Okay, so these are great people to read and something hopefully that you take away in terms of inspiring. He's actually was a doctor and he's written a lot of books about self-awareness and where you can grow into success as human beings. And one of the key things he also said at this conference, and I heard him speak, is not only disagreeableness, but very related to this, not caring too much about flattery or criticism. One of the key things about being an entrepreneur and mastering your fears and taking risk as well is not only worrying about criticism, but also not drinking what we say in the United States, drinking your own Kool-Aid. That you think you're the best at everything, you live off of flattery, you live off of people telling you that you're great at something instead of you telling yourself that. Because in entrepreneurship, as Rahul was saying, there are a lot of ups and downs. You've got to figure out where it is that center for your life, about who you are. Because that's really critical and important, because there are going to be a lot of lows. And there are going to be a lot of highs. And when you listen too much to the high, it takes you away from problem solving. It takes you away from being really focused about what's important, right? Another key piece that at least I've experienced in my life is having wonderful mentors. Running into people who support you, who give you advice, starting at a young age. I started working when I was 13 or 14 in the summers. And in fact, my 20-year-old now, he hated me for this. Every summer since 8th grade I guess would be about 14 years old, I've gotten him summer internships. And he would look at me, he's like, all my friends they're not working over the summer, why should I, right? And I really taught him because, A, work ethic, but to develop networks. Even if you work for 4 weeks over the summer, even if you have a January term or a winter term and if you've got time off, find something to do, not just for work and learning, but to develop relationships. Because these are the people that later in life, through serendipity, might introduce you to someone that then, because you're pursuing an opportunity together, it's very important, but it's also a source of mentorship, because those are the people that then support you later on that will help you move forward and who recommends you. I've only had one, what we call cold interview in my life. That is right after I graduated from college, I went to interview at a consulting firm. Ever since that job, I've had all my other jobs through recommendation of people who knew me, friends that I worked with, or through my network. That's how you start to rise up in your career. That's how you develop ideas. It's having and finding these mentors in your lives that believe in you. And it's really important because you can't do it alone as an entrepreneur. And then my last thing is, you're looking around, you're looking at your seatmates, right? I work with some people that I went to high school with. And that might be surprising, that might be shocking. But again, not doing it alone, developing relationships that you trust. These are the people you share ideas with, you brainstorm with, you go to a pub with, right? It's those people in your lives that make you passionate about something because you're sharing ideas together, you're brainstorming together, right? So look around. These are people, and this is the time to invest in relationships. Do not underestimate the power of being able to rely on the people around you to help build things. Because entrepreneurs, you never do things alone. You might master your fears and be a risk taker. You might find great mentors. But no matter what, it is building a team and building something together. And I mean, I just want to kind of end at that theme. I'm happy to answer questions about our company, but at the end of the day, you're going to pursue what you're passionate about, right? But the key thing is to do something, and don't follow what I did was my Asian parents said, you got to go do this. Do what you think is in your gut. Don't care too much about what people think, and don't do it alone. So happy to answer any questions.